I was looking for motivation to do a video this afternoon, which feels like forever, and I got this video that came up on my main site page. And I started watching it, and I ran the transcript through ChatGPT. I didn't like what it created. It sounds endlessly monotonous. And so what I did is I took what he said and I wrote my own paragraph. So this is what I wrote, and then we're going to put in a talking point, and then we're going to read the story. But I wanted you to guys to hear what this guy's saying. So if the corporations don't want to train young workers because they're not worth training because of a lack of motivation, poor professionalism, weak communication skills, difficulty accepting feedback, and a lack of work experience, then whose job is it to train Gen Zero? I've been out of university for many years now, and I still haven't found any job worth doing. I've stayed a desperation worker for as long as I can remember. The lack of good jobs is apparent, but there's also a lack of everything else in the workplace. Mindless, repetitive nature of ordinary work is something nothing can prepare you for. My daily life is dull and full of boring tasks that I could never have imagined that I would have to do unless it's just to keep a roof over my head and a little crappy food on the table. So to that, ChatGPT came back with this. Your comments touch on a significant societal and economic issue, the gap between young workers' readiness for the workforce and employers' willingness to invest in their development. They're not willing to invest in their development. So this puts the corporations with 25% of your workforce is going to be Gen Z in the next 2 years. But what they don't tell you is this talking point: the psychological toll of dead end jobs. Repetitive, unfulfilling work isn't just bad for your wallet, it's devastating for your mental health and sense of purpose. I've been saying this on this channel for a long time that mental health and work are two inevitable things that are going to collide. Mental health and working, they just don't go well together. They're like having to sit on top of the toilet while you're taking a dump and smelling it, and you don't want to smell it. That's what work is. That's what work smells like to all of us. That smell coming out of your own rear end is work. You're pushing it out, it's coming out. You want to get it done as quickly as humanly possible, while work wants to drain you with that smell. And you can't get away from work. Any way you try to get away out of taking a dump, you're not going to do it. Sure, you could become constipated for 10 days, but eventually you're going to have to go back and do the work. And we don't like it. So, my next talking point here: dead end jobs strip workers of their dignity, ambition. The monotony and lack of growth opportunities leads to feelings of worthlessness and burnout. Discuss how this affects relationships, self esteem, and even physical health over time. If I'm going to go back to the analogy that work is sitting on the toilet, can you imagine what it would be like if you had to sit on the toilet for 8 hours processing everything that you eat? 8 hours a day, every day, and you still can't get used to the smell. You still can't get used to the environment. You still can't get used to your sadistic boss asking you why you can't go faster. Your self esteem dips into the everything about this is the toilet. Physical health, self esteem, relationships, depression. I mean, you're literally sitting in a place. We call the workplace toxic, but think about it. What is more toxic than having to sit there and smell your own flavor? Work doesn't get any better than that. It just gets worse and worse every single day. Terms like quiet desperation are used to explain how people learn to suppress dreams and creativity just to get by. You have to suppress everything about being a human being. When you get home from Evil Corp, your soul is crushed. You can't stand the smell. You hate the people. You don't want to go back. And every morning, somehow, it's 8 o'clock and your little car is just sitting there, your little Promobile and you're looking at the building and you don't want to go inside, but you also know that you're going to be hungry and that you're going to have to pay the rent, and someone won't stop sending you messages. Jesus Christ. There's people that don't know how they're going to get by. This is one of those people who doesn't know what they're doing. She's desperate for anything. She's been unemployed for 5 months. She has nothing to do other than figure out how she's going to use her looks in order to get by. And I've told her 100 times, you're going to have to get on OnlyFans if you want to make money, because you're not going to find a job with your 4-year degree. You've run from one minimum wage job to another, and right now you're truly desperate because your money's running out. And she doesn't know what to do. She's flailing and her parents won't help her. None of her friends will help her. And she's given up. She's a Gen Zero that doesn't know what the hell to do. And that's where we're at with these crummy ass jobs, is that these people don't know what to do other than to ask for help. And it's not the kind of help that you want to help them with, because the rest of us are broke too. So with that said, let's get into our story, because this story goes along with this person that won't stop messaging me. You ever wonder how you got here? Working yourself to the bone, barely scraping by, doing a job you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. They told us hard work was the way out, didn't they? But for people like me, hard work isn't a ladder, it's a treadmill. And the more you run, the further behind you feel. That's exactly what happened to this person. She ran and ran and ran from one sales job to another, and sales isn't a viable industry. The economy is shrinking. The layoffs are coming. I've seen thousands of people lose their jobs since I've worked at this corporation. Thousands, not hundreds, thousands of people have lost their jobs working where I work. And everyone is looking around to see who's next. Because it's not a matter of time. It's a matter of when it's your turn. Dead-end jobs, that's what they call them. But those words, they don't tell you the whole story. A dead-end job isn't just a paycheck that barely covers rent. It's a life sentence. No promotions, no growth, no hope. It's like being trapped in quicksand. You sink deeper and harder. The harder you try to climb out. This is exactly what I felt from my coworker that showed up in the office on Thursday. He was demoralized beyond belief. He just looked at me and said, "Millennial Steam, it's been 3 years without a pay raise." And I said, "Get used to it." Because he can't. He has a family to support. He's got a wife, 5 kids, elderly parents, a mortgage. He's got a lot on his plate. And guess what? We both make the same amount of money. And I live 10 times worse. And he has real responsibility. So he looks at me all the time. "Millennial Steam, what am I going to do?" And I've told him 100,000 times, it feels like, you're going to have to find another job. Whereas where I tell everyone else, including my own Gen Zero, because all of the things that I just mentioned about Gen Zero, I've experienced myself with Gen Zero in the workplace for years now. They don't want to work. They don't want to be at work. They show up with that attitude of, "I don't want to be here," every single day. An attitude that I've had to develop myself, because there is no escape. There is no promotion coming. There's no hope. There's no growth. And the corporation knows that you're trapped, because if you could, you would have already left. So everyone that's left around you at the corporation acknowledges one thing. This is a dead-end job with a dead-end corporation. And that's why one day there was one type of executive at the top of the corporation. The next day we were told that person doesn't work here anymore. It's not impossible, even at the top of a large corporation, to lose your job overnight. Maybe it was they were planning it out, but for the workers, all we saw is so-and-so doesn't work here, so-and-so is now in charge. That's how it happened. That's how quickly it happened. A little email and the whole company changes. Now they're looking. They're looking just like that movie Office Space. So what do you do here? That's a question that's been asked of every single employee. And with hundreds of people leaving the corporation within the last couple of months, I guess some people couldn't really answer that question in a way in which the executives thought it was a good answer. It's like walking into a job interview and getting asked the question we all really don't like answering. Why do you want to work here? Any person will tell you, I don't want to work here. I just need money. I know what's here. And that's exactly what Gen Zero told me after he got hired on. I know what this company is. It's a dead end job. And for someone like that to see it at a very young age, because Gen Zero is coming into these corporations and seeing what's there. But all the other people with the long faces and desperation written all over their face, people who don't want to get fired before Christmas. But guess what? There's a good chance that you might. Like I asked this morning at the gym, it's like, what happened to so and so? And she just looked at me and she said, someone called me from corporate and said that I needed to come in and work on the weekend when she didn't want to. This morning, when I ran into her, she was actually throwing a fit at the gym because she didn't want to be there. But if you say no enough times at any job, they're going to find someone else. That's something that I learned a long time ago at my job. Any person that says no to more work isn't going to be working there for very much longer. In fact, my last senior manager, that was one of the main reasons that they fired him. He wanted to do one job, and the corporation said no. Here, everyone does everything, whether it's cleaning the floor, cleaning out the fridge, uh, cleaning in general, doing whatever it takes, because they're not going to hire more people. They're just going to make people that are already there do more work. And this is something Gen Z can't understand, is that it doesn't matter what you want to do. When you show up at work and you're working a dead end job, I would say the 99% of jobs are dead end. Like this guy goes on to say that these companies don't want people who have this mentality that they're going to do less. They're always looking for the quiet quitters. Always. They're looking for the people that don't turn on their webcams during meetings. They're looking for people who are tuned out. They're looking for people who aren't grateful to have a job. Like I said earlier this week, regular employment, regular steady work is a privilege and not a right. And that's what every corporation will tell you. If you're showing up at work with the attitude that I don't want to be here, you may find yourself not wanting to be somewhere else. And that's the price of doing business in America, is that your entire workforce is demoralized, angry, and doesn't want to be there. And you have to pretend that work is fun, that work is, especially around the holidays when you have mandatory fun. I don't know how many times I had to explain to a person last week that I'm not going to the Christmas party. I am not going to spend my time with people that I don't want to be around, honestly. I go to work, I pretend to work, and then I go home. After that, work doesn't exist. I removed all my work apps. I don't think about work. And when the end eventually comes, you're just ready. Like right now, it's funny, as the head of HR was in my office about 6 weeks ago, the very tippy top of HR. And she walked into the senior manager's office and she says, Millennial Steam, it doesn't look like anyone works here. And I said to her, yeah, look around. There's nothing personal. There's not even a cup anymore on my desk. The second my boss says I don't work there anymore, I'm going to take my mouse, unplug it from my work computer, and go home. That's all that's going to happen. There is nothing to talk about, because that's how they get rid of people. Remember, you don't have job security out there. None whatsoever. So here we go. And it's not just the job that traps you, it's the system. They dangle opportunities in front of you, but every path forward has a price. More hours, more stress, more of yourself given to a company that sees you as entirely disposable, and I would add, unwelcome for the most part. Because every time they hire someone, especially someone higher up, they talk about how they're joining the team and how they bring this certain skill set to the job. And then a couple days later, you look around, you go to message that person, and their account's deactivated. Some people only make it a day and a half. a day and a half. Some people never even start. They go through all the trouble of onboarding and then realize, you know what? I don't want to work there because most of us don't want to work there. They don't tell you about the mental toll, the sleepless nights wondering if you'll have enough to keep the lights on, the anxiety of knowing one bad day, a sick kid, a flat tire could cost you everything. This uniform, it's not just what I wear to work, it's a reminder of what I've lost. Time with my kids, my health, my dignity. But here's the real question no one's asking: who benefits from all of this? Because someone always does. While we work harder and get less, someone at the top is cashing in. I'll tell you who's cashing in: the executives, the people that make the real decision, the people that make the tough decisions, the people that decide what healthcare you're going to get or if they're going to cover anything. Because I know healthcare's been in the media this week, but think about it. We just finished open enrollment and it costs more again this year, and you're getting less. Just like everything else in life, you're always getting less. But you're not supposed to talk about that part. In fact, one of the top level people at my corporation was so angry at the last senior manager because he was openly talking about salaries with the employees. And he just thought that was so unprofessional to know, because the last thing they wanted you to know is how little everyone else around you is making. Because talking about money in corporations for the little people isn't acceptable. It's not professional to talk about how little you make, because the last thing that they want is the proletariat to be offended by how little they make. Because talking about your wages means that you're unhappy with your wages, and that's what the executives, that's what they hear when they hear the lower level people talking about how little they make. Because in their opinion, the people that make the decisions about what you get paid, they think that you're very well compensated. They don't care if you haven't gotten a raise in years. They don't care if you're struggling and you're living paycheck to paycheck, because, as they always say, you knew how much money this job paid when you took it. But that's not fair. Because for the desperation worker, it's not like we can say no. I mean, I'm a desperation worker. I can't say no. I can't walk away. I can't find a better job. There are no actual solutions to this problem. And Gen Zero acknowledging that, showing up the first day and realizing that the job doesn't pass the sniff test. They know what they want to do for a living, and as long as they have the option to run back home and hide from society, they will. And they will by the millions. Because when you walk into a place and you look at the faces of those workers, you look at how they're not even alive. The long term workers, you look at their faces and they've been struggling for so long, they've become accustomed to a standard of life that isn't dignified for a human being. And that's why I do the channel. Because there's a lot of people out there who don't know what to do, including myself. I look for a job, there's no job. You look for anything better. Like right now, I have to find something to eat because I keep eating, thinking I can get by on eating one meal a day, and it's just not possible. But what am I going to eat? Probably a hot dog. It's one of the cheapest things you can get. It's it's affordable, it's fast, and the shape of it makes you makes you realize that you're going to get it regardless of whether or not you want it. But I let's look at one more paragraph here. I know one thing: this isn't normal. It's not fair and it's not sustainable. But what do we do about it? How do we fight back when we're already so tired? Maybe it starts by telling the truth, by admitting the American dream is just that, a dream, and by asking the hard questions no one wants answers to. I ask the hard questions every day on this channel because I'm looking around at what people are posting on the internet, posting on YouTube, posting out out there. What's going on? And everyone is still kind of figuring it out. Because if there's one thing we all have in common, is that we don't have enough money. And because we don't have enough money, we're uncomfortable. I mean, I had literally just sat here in the cesspool of an apartment for the last 4 hours trying to think of something to do to get out of working. I've dedicated this entire day to figuring out what's my next move, so that I don't have to go back to Evil Corp. And guess what? After 4 hours of sitting here, I've come to the exact same conclusion that you have. We have to go back to jobs we don't like.